Integrity Toys has been one of the most enduring doll brands designed for adult collectors that exists, and it's easy to see why when you look at these dolls. With a combination of stylish fashion designs, edgy streetwear, and a high quality finish and accessories, these dolls are often considered a must-have in every collection. There are also so many different looks, designs, and styles. Some collectors focus on a specific doll line, while others collect a whole variety of different Integrity Toys dolls. Each line has a slightly different body and includes different characters and a different style. The most well-known Integrity Toys brand is the Fashion Royalty. In 2002, when Integrity Toys first started, it was with the Fashion Royalty doll, albeit in a slightly different package and design at that point. She's the flagship of Integrity Toys and represents a catwalk model wearing high-end fashions with deluxe accessories. The New Face dolls are also a very popular line. They're very similar to Fashion Royalty in many ways, but they're meant to represent a younger and edgier model, and there are slight variations to the body to highlight that. The Colour Infusion body has been used for its own line and also for the Gem and the Holograms line. Colour Infusion represented all different street-style fashions, whereas the Gem and the Holograms line was based on the 1980s TV show and its outrageous colours and designs. The Meteor dolls represent vibrant modern nightclub setting. Their characters are diverse and the fashions are both edgy and sexy. A recent addition to the Integrity Toys lines is the Toolabelle True collection. This is a rebranding of the Industry dolls and includes the Industry doll body. It's also meant to include a variety of different characters from both the Industry line and the Dynamite Girls line, who was retired some time ago. East 59th dolls are an elegant crew who present different 1950s fashion styles and looks. Poppy Parker is probably the most famous individual model, and her line is one of the most popular in the Integrity Toys book. Poppy Parker and her friends represent 1960s fashions, but also present a modernized look of this kind of clothing. Primarily available to the Asian market is the Mizaki FR Nippon line. She has a stylized, slightly anime look to go with the Asian market, and also often represents 1960s fashions and trends. Each of the bodies of these dolls is just slightly different, and that can make it a little bit hard to know what will fit whom and exactly what to expect when you're buying a new doll. Arranging the dolls in order of height really highlights some of the differences between these bodies. From the large Colour Infusion body down to the small FR Nippon body, there is a really big difference, especially if we lay those two side by side. You can see between these two that there's more than an inch of difference in height from the largest to the smallest. Looking at them from one to the next, it's a little bit less obvious how different they are. Colour Infusion body from the top of the head to the bottom of the toes is just over 32 centimetres. And then we get about a half centimetre difference for each step along the chain of bodies. Meteor is almost exactly 32 centimetres. Fashion Royalty and New Face are exactly the same height, measuring about 31.5 centimetres. The True or Industry body comes in at about 30 centimetres with her toes stretched out. Note that this body can come with either flat feet or heeled feet, and so I pointed her toes to emulate as if she had her heeled feet. East 59th, just a tiny bit less. She's about 30 centimetres, and then a little step down to Poppy Parker, who's the first one who's under 30 centimetres, about 29. FR Nippon, note, only comes with flat feet, so she's always going to be just a tiny bit shorter, and she comes in at under 29 centimetres. The next point of comparison is the doll's feet, and these can also be measured roughly in the order you see here. Colour Infusion has her own foot size. She cannot share shoes with any of the other dolls. Her feet measure about 1 inch across, as opposed to the next largest doll feet, which are under 2 centimetres. When you see them side by side, the difference is pretty clear. And when we put shoes on her, the shoes designed for the Colour Infusion body or for Gem and the Holograms are quite large. You can see this one, if she was wearing a sock, this would be a perfect fit on this foot, which is the Colour Infusion foot. However, if I pick up Meteor, who also has a larger foot than many of the other dolls, put this shoe on, it is nothing like going to go on. Her foot is just swimming in there. We're not going to be able to share shoes with any dolls and the Colour Infusion body. She does need to have her own special shoes. However, moving down the line, the next 3 dolls should generally be able to share shoes. Meteor, Fashion Royalty, and New Face have extremely similar feet. The Meteor arch is just slightly different, but they are considered to be able to share shoes with the other two who have exactly the same lower leg and foot. These shoes were made for Fashion Royalty and New Face, so we should see them fit exactly the same on each of those dolls' feet. This is Agnes, who is Fashion Royalty, and we can see that that shoe is a pretty good fit. This is Imogen, example of New Face doll. We're getting exactly the same fit on her. And then on Meteor, we can see again, there really is no difference. In fact, I'd almost say it fits slightly better on the Meteor foot. Whereas if we have a go with that shoe on the Colour Infusion body, can't really get that in at all, far too large. And moving to the smaller dolls, got the East 59th foot here. Although she can put that on, it's clearly far too large for her. So Fashion Royalty, New Face and Meteor, you really shouldn't have trouble swapping their shoes as much as you want. Just be aware that some of the New Face dolls do come with a flat foot style, and of course they're going to take a different shoe if they do. Moving down to the smaller dolls, we're going to see roughly the same thing. Now we've got a mix of flat feet and heeled feet. And that is, of course, going to change the fit of the shoes that they will be wearing. Now, the industry flat feet are quite different from the Poppy Parker flat feet. They will still sometimes be able to share shoes, but often they will not. They're going to need their specific shoes. On the other hand, Mizaki, apologies for the stained Mizaki feet here. She was wearing some black shoes for a long time. FR Nippon Mizaki and Poppy Parker have essentially the same body, and they do have the same flat foot feet. Mizaki does not come with a heeled foot option, so she can share Poppy Parker's flat shoes. For example, these are Poppy Parker flat shoes that come from the At Home for the Holidays gift set, and we can wiggle them onto Mizaki's feet or onto Poppy Parker's feet and see we have the same fit there. But of course, if Poppy Parker has heeled feet, she is not going to be fitting into Mizaki's shoes, and Mizaki can't share with any other dolls. The vast majority of True or Poppy Parker dolls who come with flat feet also come with interchangeable heeled feet like this. They have a really easy, quick switch body where all you need to do is pull at the knee until the leg comes out. And then we can switch it over to the other foot style, pushing that in exactly the same way until it clicks. And then she can have her heeled feet. So here we can see a comparison on this Tulabelle True doll of the heeled foot and the flat foot. Also got a set of Poppy Parker heeled feet here to compare. Now, generally speaking, these dolls are considered to share a lower leg. And what that means is that they are going to be exactly the same when it comes to sharing shoes, and the same goes for the East 59th doll. As you can see here, all of these feet look absolutely identical, and that's because they are. This is exactly the same lower leg. And so if you have a heeled foot version of Poppy Parker, Tulabelle True, or East 59th, you are going to find that those shoes can be shared between all of them. So here we have a Poppy Parker heeled foot shoe, which can go onto Tulabelle True or onto East 59th, or of course onto the Poppy Parker leg. You might notice that the shoes are not necessarily an exact perfect fit. That's simply how Integrity Toys has made them, because when you're making this sort of design, it's hard to get it absolutely perfect. It's one of the reasons why some companies make plastic molded shoes, because getting that exact fit can be a little bit easier. Speaking of companies with molded shoes, you might be thinking Barbies have pretty similar feet to those arched ones we have been looking at, and that is absolutely true. We compare here the Barbie Silkstone foot with the Poppy Parker etc. foot here. We can see they are definitely not the same, but they are very similar. And what that means is that you are going to be able to swap shoes to an extent between Barbie and these dolls. So here I have a Silkstone plastic shaped shoe which goes onto the Silkstone doll, perfect fit there. Or if I use the Poppy Parker leg, I can wriggle it on, and actually that's a really good fit here. Now, some Barbie shoes are going to be better fits and some are going to be worse fits, but it is very nice when you find that those shoes, they can swap to a reasonable extent. Now, obviously that is not the case if you have a flat-footed doll, where you'll find you can't wiggle them in at all. It is also worth noting that this current slender version of the Fashion Royalty body is not the original one. This body dates from 2017, and there were several different incarnations of the Fashion Royalty body before that. The very first one was a completely different body. As you can see, it lacked the articulation of the modern one, but also its shape and size was vastly different and much closer to the current Poppy Parker body. She has a very different waistline and larger bust, but in terms of the height of her torso and the length of her legs, she's much, much closer to Poppy Parker, and she differs from the current Fashion Royalty body by nearly an inch in height. What's also very interesting about this body is that the feet appear to be the exact same design as the modern Poppy Parker East 59 high-heeled foot. And because of that, if you do get older Fashion Royalty dolls and clothing, they can actually share the shoes at least with the modern Poppy Parker. This one here is an older Fashion Royalty shoe, which is an excellent fit on the modern Poppy Parker. However, due to that different shape of the torso and bust, you are going to find that Poppy Parker clothes will not fit the old Fashion Royalty body. You can see that the bust is just far, far larger. However, we'll get some of the older Fashion Royalty clothes onto Poppy Parker. They just might be a little bit loose around the bust. Personally, if I want to rebody an old Fashion Royalty doll and make sure that she can still wear the same clothes, but on a body which has better articulation and is not yellowed, I generally choose the East 59th body as being the closest in bust size and still very similar in height. She is just a tiny bit taller than Poppy Parker and than the old Fashion Royalty body, but the difference is not significant. And then to highlight some beautiful clothing sharing, here is the Silkstone Barbie I showed before. She's getting a beautiful shoe upgrade with that older Fashion Royalty shoe, which is going to look lovely on her. Now, there are some obvious differences as well, but just taking into account the foot similarity and the height similarity, the old Fashion Royalty body compared with the Barbie body, especially this Silkstone one, they just really do look very reminiscent of each other. That triangular shaped torso and the pointed bust is very, very much a reminder of Barbie. And I guess you can keep in mind that this was the first Integrity Toys high fashion model, and I'm sure they were very influenced by Barbie. I mean, at the time, that would have been really their only direct competitor. And that's a really good opportunity to see the evolution, because the new and current Fashion Royalty body really has no similarities to Barbie, and it really shows how much the brand has come into their own and developed that distinct style. The Integrity Toys bodies fit neatly into two categories: the taller girls and the smaller girls. And among each of those groups, we have quite a lot of similarities between the tallest and the shortest. There are two core differences between all of the dolls in the larger size. We've got the bust and the buttocks as being the major differences. Meteor has a significantly larger bust than all of the others. Colour Infusion and Fashion Royalty are very close in bust size, while New Face is the smallest of all. When it comes to the backs of the dolls, these two appear to have the same lower torso piece, and so therefore have the same buttock size. And that means that these dolls are going to share nearly all their clothes. It's only the difference in the bust size that could make some clothing going from New Face to Fashion Royalty be a bit of a squeeze. On the other hand, these two also share the lower torso piece, and this one has a significantly larger buttock. And that means that any clothes going from the Fashion Royalty over to the Meteor or Colour Infusion could be an issue, especially going to Meteor, where we have the large bust as well as the large buttocks. In the smaller dolls side, again, we see a very similar thing. Bust and buttocks are going to be different. These two, although they look roughly the same, are actually going to be quite different in proportions. East 59th is known for having a much curvier body. That's her design style. So we have a much larger bust and also a larger buttocks. Industry has the smallest bust of all, pretty comparable comparable with the FR Nippon, who is known for having the same body as Poppy Parker, only a smaller bust. Poppy's bust is right in between, smaller than E's 59 and larger than the other two. And when we flip over the dolls, we can see no particular difference in terms of the buttock size. E's 59th is known for having a slightly larger buttocks. The other three look to be pretty much identical. So between these four dolls, we should be able to share a lot of clothing. And then between the smaller dolls and the larger dolls, obviously that's going to be slightly more challenging. Let's have a look how that works.